What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to TTB Ravens Media, bringing you Ravens content every single day. And today we actually had two videos come out because of the Zeitler signing earlier today. I put out a video real quick. And now, obviously, I'm doing Mock Draft Monday because last week, thank you to everybody who supported the video. It was a lot of fun. I had a few people comment down their mock drafts. A lot of people commented on my mock draft. And once again, I want that same thing to happen. If you got a new mock draft, comment it down below. I want to see who you think. If you have any sleeper players that I should look into, definitely let me out. A lot of people have sent me different players that they think I should check out, which I absolutely have done. So that's a lot of fun to be able to see what other people think. And as always, these opinions are my own. This is my mock draft. This is not a predictive thing of what the Ravens will do, what Eric DeCosta will do. This is what I think the Ravens should do with the draft. So make sure to, realize that. So if you think, oh, Eric DeCosta would never do that, I don't care. This is what I would do if I was Eric DeCosta. I'm not trying to predict what he's trying to do. This is what I would do, what's best for the Ravens organization, in my opinion. Now, if you want to see Ravens Daily content, hit that subscribe button down below. And if you like the video, obviously hit like and obviously comment down below your thoughts. So getting into this mock draft, I did this one on the Draft Network, very different from Pro Football Focus, which I did last week's episode on. So on the Draft Network, I was picking 27, and I went with Gregory Rousseau. And there's no trades in this draft, just as an FYI. It's just a stock 7-round mock draft, no trades. I went with Gregory Rousseau. Now, I would prefer to draft a wide receiver at 27. However, Rashad Bateman and Terrence Marshall were gone. So because of that, I figured that the Ravens should absolutely, go after edge rusher, especially with the Corey Linsley signing. Corey Linsley did get signed earlier today, but with the Kevin Zeitler signing, I was like, okay, the Ravens kind of have some piece in the interior offensive line. They don't have a ton of space. I doubt that they go after, some sort of big edge rusher. They got to get that done early. So I went with Gregory Rousseau. If you don't know Rousseau's a monster defensive end out of Miami. He's a bit raw, but he's very, very physical, great size. And that's something that the Ravens could definitely work with. And he'd be able to, he'd work with, Calais Campbell. He'd work with the guys that the Ravens already have. And in a scheme where, a lot of people are able to get free, having athletic monsters on the defensive line, absolutely great stuff. And he'd be playing outside linebacker, but, he's an edge rusher. So that's what he would come in for as the first-round pick. And that's what I want. Gregory Rousseau, I've seen a lot of mock drafts where people want him going to the Ravens. So that's where I have the Ravens going at 27. At pick 58, I have the Ravens drafting wide receiver, and I have them drafting Nico Collins. Now, he's not a name that I had really heard a lot going to the Ravens, but I just loved his size. 6'4" wide receiver out of Michigan. And as everybody who's watched any of my previous videos knows, I want size at wide receiver. I absolutely need to have size because the Ravens need to be able to throw up jump balls, and Miles Boykin hasn't been able to show that he can do it. So Nico Collins, another guy that's a bit raw. He never really had good quarterback play at Michigan, so they weren't able to take advantage of his size and mismatches that he gave against collegiate defenders. But he's got decent speed, but he's just got great size, can high point the ball, and that's what I want. That's what the Ravens offense needs at wide receiver. They don't need somebody to be a true number one. Obviously, I would love to draft that in a Rashad Bateman or a Terrence Marshall Jr., but they weren't available, so had to go to the next best thing, which was the biggest need, which is a jump ball wide receiver. And that's what I got, Nico Collins out of Michigan. At pick 104, I went with another edge rusher with Patrick Jones, the second out of Pittsburgh. Patrick Jones, he doesn't have experience anywhere other than edge rusher. He doesn't have experience covering, dropping into zone coverage. Doesn't have experience playing on the, interior of the defensive line. So in a Wink Martindale system, he wouldn't be somebody that he could play every down, or at least at the start of his career, be able to play every down. However, what he would be able to do is become a situational pass rusher. If a guy like, Tyus Bowser is able, you can drop him into coverage, send Patrick Jones on some sort of, edge pressure. And that's something he could bring even in his rookie season, is just that situational pass rush. Not somebody that I would expect the Ravens to be playing every down because, like I said, Wink Martindale loves to throw everybody into coverage, and he loves to shift things around. But, he could definitely be a situational player, got good size and everything like that. So, he could be really solid for the Ravens. And I think, a third-round pick for him, I think would be really solid. And that third-round pick is coming from David Culley and getting a comp pick for him becoming the Texans head coach. At pick 131, I believe this is a repeat pick from my first mock draft. I have James Wiggins, the safety out of Cincinnati, going to Baltimore. Now, Talked about it plenty of times about the safety position and how I'm a believer in Chuck Clark and Deshaun Elliott. However, I would still like the Ravens to try and go after a turnover forcing safety. And that's exactly what James Wiggins is. He actually had 3 walk-off turnovers, forced turnovers last season. And that's something that, that I really want in a safety. And obviously he wouldn't be starting right away, wouldn't be the, oh, wow, day one starter, but he could come in every once in a while, be a good backup in case of injury, hopefully not. But, just be on the roster, learn from Deshaun Elliott, learn from Chuck Clark, and when he does step onto the field, make some big plays. And that's kind of what I want the Ravens to do at the safety position, in the draft. At pick 168, another repeat pick, had to go with my guy, Simi Fehoko. If you don't know, I'm a huge Stanford Cardinal fan in college football, and I love Simi Fehoko. Big fan of Simi Fehoko. Another 6'4" wide receiver. He's got great speed at his size. Nothing, he's no DK Metcalf or anything like that, but he's a 6'4" wide receiver with very good speed. But what the best part about him is his catch radius. If you throw it near him, he has a very good chance of at least getting a hand on the football or coming down with the football, which is something that Miles Boykin, I have not seen out of him in his career. Everybody remembers, that pass that Lamar Jackson threw in the playoffs against the Titans where he throws it up. And yes, it was a bad pass. I'm not trying to, just blame Boykin, but Boykin didn't even jump. Simi Fehoko, I guarantee you he would jump up for that football. Would he catch it? I don't know, but he would get a hand on it. He would disrupt it. And he actually does have a brother, I believe, playing offensive line for the Chargers. So he's from an athletic family, a football family, and I think that he could be an absolute stud, deep threat type of wide receiver for the Ravens. Another big body. Like I said, I love big-bodied wide receivers. That's what the Ravens need. And looking at pick 183, I went with a cornerback out of Michigan State. His name's Shakur Brown, and I went with him because he is a man coverage corner, and that's something that the Ravens desperately need. Do they need it to be a starter? No, not at all. They do not need somebody to play on the outside because they have Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters. However, in terms of the slot cornerback, last year, Marlon Humphrey had to play in the slot, but we have Tavon Young coming back, his health. Hopefully Tavon's healthy, but Shakur Brown could play in the slot, play man coverage in the slot, but he can also play man coverage on the outside. He's got decent size. I believe he's about 6 feet tall, which is, good enough to play on the outside against those bigger wide receivers like a Chase Claypool, because that's the same height as Marcus Peters. And you look at what he could bring, man coverage and depth. And at the cornerback position in the secondary, the Ravens need depth because, like I've brought up in other videos before, when you run, a lot of blitz press man coverage, you cannot have a weak link, because if you have one weak link, we saw it in the Monday Night Football game against the Browns. Baker Mayfield just went off because I believe Jimmy Smith went down with an injury in that game. Baker Mayfield targeted the backup all day long, and it was completion after completion after completion because there was a hole in that blitz heavy man coverage secondary. So Shakur Brown, could be just a solid depth piece to, work in that system and develop his skills as he eventually becomes a player on this defense as Jimmy Smith gets older and, kind of phases out. And the final pick 208, you may be wondering why I haven't addressed the offensive line. Don't worry, I'm doing it here. I'm doing this before an Orlando Brown trade has happened. So, kind of right now I'm like, all right, we still have Orlando Brown. I expect him to be playing right tackle, but I don't expect him to be playing more than 1 year. And so I went with Drew Himmelman, an offensive tackle out of Illinois State. This guy is uber raw. He's just 6'8", 320 pounds, I believe. And he was actually a very, very prominent basketball player, and he played tight end up until he went to college. So in my mind, I was kind of thinking of him as somebody who could play that third tight end slot. I didn't draft the tight end, and I drafted him, and he could come in, and obviously he'd be able to block in the tight end spot. But at 6'8", he's got good size, and he has a history of playing tight end. And that's something where would he be able to run this nice post route? No. But having a guy leak out a little bit, maybe something could happen. Maybe Greg Roman could get some things going with Drew Himmelman. I think it could be just kind of a fun gadget piece, extra offensive lineman, because we've seen what former tight ends that have switched positions have been able to do in the NFL, and most particularly J.J. Watt. J.J. Watt has multiple receiving touchdowns as he comes into the offensive line. It's just like a gadget offensive piece. And he's able to do it because, you don't lose those skills. You just don't use them as much, and you're not like a pristine route runner, but you're able to get people. If they hear, Number 73 has reported eligible. They're like, oh, it's an offensive lineman. Most likely not going to need to cover him, but maybe he leaks out or something like that. So I kind of drafted him as kind of a gadget piece, but also would be able to develop under Orlando Brown unless he gets traded. Obviously, next mock draft Monday, if Orlando Brown's traded, definitely going to have to, make sure that the offensive tackle position is secured. But we also have Tyree Phillips, so maybe he could play right tackle a little bit, and Drew Himmelman could sit behind and just kind of learn from everybody else and develop his skills as an edge protector. But remember, Orlando Brown was seen as a very raw talent, and obviously he had a horrible combine, which helps. But overall, that's my draft, my mock draft. I'll go through it once more. So anybody in the comment section down below that wants to, kind of analyze my picks, maybe say another player would be a better spot to draft, go for it. I want to hear all your thoughts and opinions. But at 27, Gregory Rousseau. At 58, Nico Collins. At 104, Patrick Jones. At 131, James Wiggins. At 168, Simi Fehoko. 183, Shakur Brown. And 208 is Drew Himmelman. That's going to be it for today's video. Make sure to check back in tomorrow to see tomorrow's, daily content. Hopefully an Orlando Brown trade happens very soon. But thank you all for watching. I'll see y'all again next time.